and pick up a package that came for me. Didn't expect much of anything, but turns out it's from Megan Holtz over at NOE Molds in Provo, Utah. And what a big surprise it is. Happened on a day that I was going to do some bullet casting, and so let me show you what Megan sent me from NOE. What a nice baton hardwood, and it has a polymer sleeve over the end of it, and it's perfectly made for tapping the hinge pin on molds to get bullets to drop in case the bullet is sticking a little bit in the mold, and that can happen to any of us. And this is very nice. So I really appreciate that. So thank you, Megan, but that wasn't all. The main event was this little box. And we like little boxes, don't we? Because inside this thing is one of the NOE mold blocks. It's a 2-cavity mold block, and it's made for a 4.59 diameter bullet, as you can see there. Let's take this thing apart. And one thing I've always appreciated about NOE molds is that they include a top punch for that bullet for lubricizers. And look at that. A well-fitted top punch is the very best for use in sizing and lubing our bullets. You know, when you buy a bullet mold, say from Lyman or Lee or Seiko or RCBS, you don't get this. And so we've got to go ahead and look and search to find the proper nose punch for the bullet. And then when we want to go ahead and order it, it's not in stock. Very frustrating sometimes getting the right nose punch for an appropriate bullet. Well, NOE solves that for us, and even if it costs us a few extra bucks for this thing, to be included in the bullet mold box is a fantastic thing. I don't mind paying the extra few bucks to get this thing in the box, so I don't have to go searching for it and scrounging around trying to find this thing. You know, life is short, and this is happiness. So you know, if I need to size or lube my bullets, this is gonna be very handy. And notice, we got a Spitzer bullet here, folks. 500 grain mold for the 4570 bullet. And it is a powder coat design. There are no grooves. So we're not going to be putting any lube in this. We're going to be powder coating these. 500 grain projectiles. However, they're Spitzers. So we can't use it in our lever action rifle like my 4570 Model 1895 Cowboy by Marlin. I won't be able to use this. But fortunately, for me, I have a real good use for this bullet. It's like Megan read my mind. It's amazing. So thank you, Megan, for this wonderful example of what NOE can do. I've always known that NOE is a good company for bullet molds, and I've been wanting to try your products for all these long years, and never got around to it because I found that the Lee molds did what I needed. But NOE is one of our major players in quality bullet molds, and now I'm just so glad to be able to have a chance to use one of their products and try it out. Well, so what we have here is a nice Allen bolt that runs through here. Now, these mold blocks are made to work with the Lee handles. So this is NOE's way of saying that one of the products that Lee makes that's really high quality is their mold block handles. They're 6-cavity mold block handles. And we've known that for a long time because look at that, that's all steel. The only thing bad about this is that sometimes these wooden handles come off because they're just kind of pressed on, and there's a little spike here, you know, a little spike crimp to hold these little caps on, so they come off sometimes. But if we put some paper in there and then jam it back on, that holds for quite a while. Anyway, this is high enough quality to be used with the NOE molds. As you can see, it's a perfect fit. So I'm going to be going ahead and installing these by taking the Allen bolts out and then attaching them. So I'll do that off camera. Now I had to show you this. These Allen bolts go all the way through the threads, go all the way through the mold block, and that's quality. Now, as you all know, there's aluminum and there's aluminum. Aluminum can be very cheap, like the aluminum that's used for our pans for frying eggs, all the way up to high-grade aluminums that are used for the aerospace industry. This aluminum feels very slick. It almost feels like steel. They're very well finished, and the material of the aluminum takes a finish very well. So it has a good feel of quality to the aluminum, and the mold blocks close with a very nice solid sound. Now the sprue plate's nice and thick. That looks like it's over 1/8 of an inch thick, that sprue plate. And it's got the little pressure washers to hold it on. But here's something interesting. The sprue plate is steel. It is not an aluminum sprue plate. So that will hold heat better for good bullet bases, and we appreciate that. Also of noteworthy import for all of you out there, in case you ever haven't noticed, the bolt should be up, not the nut, because the nut has the threaded part of the bolt sticking up, and if you have to hit that, it'll damage whatever you're using to tap on that. Might as well have the nice bolt head to tap on. That works better. So when Megan Hulse sends a mold block out to a caster, there's always a risk for her and also for the company, because suppose I get a lemon mold or something and it won't cast well. Or suppose I get a mold that the bullet is worthless. Well, I'm liable to give them a very bad review, and it's my job, for the benefit of all of you out there, to give you a good, honest lowdown on these things. And I'll do that, because you don't want to ever give a review that isn't the absolute truthfulness to the viewers out there. It doesn't do them any good, and it doesn't do anybody any good. As an aside, fortune cookie policy for a living is never lie. If you have to lie, don't say anything. And that happens to be in the US Constitution. So one thing that I think could be improved is they could have cut some of the material out between these funnels to create a kind of a trough, because the trough always works best, whether you're pouring a small interrupted sprue or whether you want to go ahead and run from one sprue hole to the next. The trough makes it possible to do it either way very effectively, very efficiently. And it's not that hard for them to machine a trough across. The trough can still be done so that you can still do the nozzle and funnel contact technique if you wished. So, but that's a minor thing, really. Look at the direction sheet that comes with the NOE mold blocks. You see, they know that when you buy NOE mold, you're already an experienced caster, because new casters don't invest in NOE molds straight up. You have to appreciate quality to go ahead and do that, and beginning bullet casters always start off with other mold companies. So they don't need to give you a lot of information on the basic casting and the basic preparation of molds and all this kind of thing. They don't even explain to you that you've got to go ahead and take this Allen screw out in order to install the mold block handles, or even that you use Lee mold block handles. They don't even mention them because they know you know. So what that means is this little thing might have some good stuff in there that maybe we didn't know. And so I'll just go ahead and summarize it for you. They recommend breaking in a new set of aluminum mold blocks by raising this thing up to 300 or 400 degrees and then letting it cool back down to room temperature and repeating that cycle 3 or 4 times, because when you do that, that really sets the alignment pins nicely. That's something I didn't ever realize. By the way, you see the nice venting there? Those venting grooves are very important in the casting of good bullets. And if you look at the edge there, you see no burrs. There's not even a hint of a burr. And that even includes the little vent grooves where the vent grooves meet the bullet cavity. That's absolutely perfect. Every one of those vent grooves meets the cavity perfectly without any kind of burr in there. Now I can't say that for Lee molds because the Lee molds don't have the cost or quality of finish that NOE molds have. So when you buy an NOE mold, you're spending more money, but you're getting quality. And the quality shows. You might not notice something like that, but I noticed that right away because that's one of the first things I do when I look at a new mold. Are there any burrs in there? When I look at that, I could use magnification and I can't see a hint of a burr. Now I want to go on record to say that I am not bashing Lee molds, because I happen to like Lee molds enough to have a whole drawer full of them, and I've casted enough cast bullets to fill the bed of a pickup truck using Lee mold. So I like Lee molds. I like their economy, I like their high value. But there's nothing wrong with getting more quality and getting bullets that perhaps you can't get otherwise, like this one, to do the lubing. But what NOE recommends is that no, you don't just take an eyedropper like I've been doing and just drip a drop on the alignment pins and drip a drop here and touch it here and this kind of thing. What NOE is saying is that is inaccurate placement of the lube. So what NOE recommends is using a Q-tip. So what I'm going to be doing now is taking my bottle of 2-stroke oil and putting the oil on a Q-tip and then accurately touching it to the pins and the bolts and screws of the mold when I do the lubing, and that's got accurate placement written all over it. Some of you out there do that already. Perhaps you got the idea from NOE in the first place. Is that to keep this interface looking like new is to put some of your lube, and when the bullets are still in the cavity and you open the sprue plate and it's time to lube, also take your Q-tip and just rub the lube along the top of the mold block like this while everything is hot, and the bullet stops the lube from getting into the cavity, so you're good there. But of course we don't just put it over the bullet, but you can get close to it, and that keeps the top of this from getting the bad lead rubs and all this kind of thing. Of course, when we start getting lead smearing, that's the time to cut down the temperature of the alloy. But with the PID controller from Johnny's Reloading Bench, we shouldn't have that problem anymore. But if we do see the lead smearing, well, that's something we look for. And the lube on top actually makes it so that even if that happens, it's not a problem. Well, we might even put a little bit of lube then on the underside of the sprue plate. Notice that NOE does not recommend smoking their molds. So I'd like to thank Megan Hulse, NOE Bullet Molds, and all of you viewers out there. Take care, best to you, and see you in the next video. Bye for now.